families. Domestic violence often takes different forms. Physical abuse is often the most obvious because it's easy to see. While emotional abuse can be difficult to detect, it doesn't always come accompanied with other types of abuse, but it does have the longest lasting effects and is often most difficult to recover from. Neglect is another type of effect, which often deals with the deprivation of necessities, whether it's internal or intentional or not. Another form of abuse is sexual abuse, which are often acts for sexual gratification, wanting monetary gain. Domestic violence is a worldwide issue. It's something that you can see in Canada, to the Middle East, Korea, and also in Iran. 1 in 3 women worldwide will be victimized. Even pregnancy does not stay off abuse. For those already victims of domestic violence, frequency and severity of abuse often increases during pregnancy. For those who experience first-time abuse during pregnancy, it is likely to continue and increase after the child is born. While 33% of women are victims of abuse during pregnancy, violence is not always directed at the women. 40% of men are abused by their partner while she is expecting as well. The expectation is that men are the abusers, but as you saw in the video, that isn't always true. The rates for man to women and women to man abuse is about the same. Of course, women are more likely to be injured during an altercation because when they use abuse against their partner, it is often in self-defense. Those experiences often lead to battered women syndrome. Abuse takes the form of either intimate terrorism, which is common and intense, or situational violence, which is occasional. It's important to remember that infrequent does not mean mild, though, and situational violence is likely to increase in frequency over time. In either situation, the victim doesn't always leave, although they know they shouldn't. As you saw in the video as well at the beginning, some women expressed why they stay in their abusive relationships. Other reasons often include some women don't feel they have the necessities to make it on their own to provide for themselves and their children. They want to maintain a family unit for their children because being in some family rather than no family is better. Also, women believe that he will and can change, and it's just a temporary thing. Some women are so committed to their relationships that they stay in them despite their violence. Also, they view outbursts as being their own fault, so there's no one to blame but themselves. While abuse isn't limited to any particular group, those most likely to abuse their spouse are men. Men between the ages of 18 and 24, those who are unemployed or part-time employed, have low education, often live in poverty, have been married for fewer than 10 years, have been abusers of drugs and alcohol, have often had frequent marital conflict, have themselves been physically or sexually abused as a child, view women as deserving of the abuse, and believe that men should be head of the household. Abuse is generally about control, and because of this, men feel they can take whatever they want, however they want to. Emotional abuse often occurs more in homes where the woman is the primary breadwinner as well. Most parents are found to use some form of violence against their children. Mild actions like spanking are still classified as violence, but it is another type of violence that we have more concern for. This includes child maltreatment, which often comes in forms of neglect, physical abuse, emotional abuse, or sexual abuse. Children 1 and younger have the highest rates of child malnutrition. And unfortunately, children that die of malnutrition are generally younger than 4 years old. As also abuse, there are certain qualifications or qualifiers of someone likely to abuse children. That includes a single parent or someone who's been married fewer than 10 years. Again, someone who is unemployed, or employed part-time, is a firstborn before the parent reached age 18. They are most likely to be female, have low self-esteem, poor mental health, financial issues, view that children are troublesome. They have their own small support system and are likely have been abused themselves. As you saw in the video as well in the beginning, our presentation also illustrated that children are not always abused directly. Simply by watching abuse, it lets a child know what is okay and how it is okay to treat people. Studies suggest that up to 10 million children witness some form of domestic violence annually. Parental abuse is another one of the least acknowledged forms of domestic violence. Young children or teens that abuse their parents are likely to be controlling, demanding, have problems with anger. Adult children that abuse elderly parents usually struggle with addiction, illness, and abusing actions can be physical, financial, emotional, and verbal. In both situations, they are more likely to be white females, and mothers are more often victims than fathers. Victims experience physical harm, damage to their property, despair, shame, and feelings of helplessness. Although domestic violence is something that is becoming common and is something that we see, there is hope. There are hotlines and places that you can go to get help. As a way to end this, there are ways to move past violence, to end the chain, and no longer see it. We know this because you have many stories of families and people overcoming violence in their home and not passing it on. We got a letter from someone anonymously about how they overcame violence within their own lives. And this is what she wrote. I came from a dysfunctional and abusive home. Both of my parents were immigrants from Mexico. With no educational background, wanting to flee the country for a better life, making ends meet was challenging for my dad. With a large family to provide for, I experienced at a very young age emotional, verbal, and physical abuse. Life was not fair. I often thought if I really was a member of this family, being the oldest daughter brought in a lot of expectations on me. I was the one who my sisters looked up to. At a very young age, I would question, why would someone who brought you into this world want to cause you pain, especially those who were your parents, who were supposed to love you and help you become a law-abiding citizen. I decided that I didn't want to bring this pain into my own family. Why would I want to hurt my children if it hurt me? If I loved them, I had to accept them and imperfections and extend my unconditional love for them. At times it was hard, but I soon developed a relationship with my Savior Jesus Christ, and my life took a turn for a better tomorrow. I broke a chain of pain and replaced it with love, the love of a Savior. Sometimes our struggles are beginning to a better life.